Hi, everybody. Welcome to DN Conversations. Today we have Fortune Senior Editor at Large and best-selling author from the New York Times, Geoff Colvin, with us. Geoff, welcome.
Hi, Tony. Thank you.
We're here to talk about a big week for you. You have two very important articles in Fortune this week, and I wanted to have a chance to talk about them a little bit. The first one is an article called "And Then There Were Two," which really relates to the Global 500 list that came out on Monday in Fortune. And for the first time ever, mainland China has more companies on the Fortune Global 500 list than the United States. 123, I think it is, to 121. And when you throw in Taiwan, I think it jumps to 133, something like that. In any event, obviously this has some serious consequences, I would imagine, for Wall Street, for Main Street, for companies trying to do business in China. And I'd love for you to dissect what this means at a critical time where relations between the United States and China are not necessarily the best.
Yeah, they are not the best by any means, and they are getting worse. And that is really the big picture here. This new data from the Fortune Global 500 and this landmark change that for the first time ever, China has more companies on the list than the United States had, which, by the way, is the first time any country has ever had more companies on this list than the United States has had. It's a signal. It's a sign of something larger, which is the escalating rivalry between the two great superpowers, the two largest economies on earth, China and the US. And this rivalry is inevitable. Graham Allison at Harvard, the China expert there, has famously called this an example of the Thucydides trap. It's about the time in ancient Greece when a rising power, Athens, threatened the established power, Sparta, and in that case, it led to a 30 years war. Well, we're a long way from that, but the question is, what will it lead to in this rivalry between the US and China? And then just in the past few weeks, we have seen that relationship degenerate as quickly and as badly as the relationship between the two superpowers of the world, whoever they were, have ever degenerated. It's really getting serious. And the big question, economically, as well as socially, and as far as defense and everything else is concerned, is where does this relationship go? This is the most important bilateral relationship in the world. It has suddenly started getting worse. How will it be managed by these two countries?
Boy, and in terms of boardrooms across the United States, American companies have exhausted growth. Many of them have by the U.S. working with the American or the domestic markets, let's say North American markets. They've seemed to, after about 2000, look to China and saying to themselves, this is a huge marketplace and a great opportunity. And this comes at a time when companies really are desperately looking for growth, and they've got to be wary about what those signals say as well, no?
Absolutely, because as this rivalry between the two countries intensifies, it is in part being carried out. The rivalry is being carried out economically. In fact, the rivalry is all about economic might, because that's the foundation of economic growth and the foundation of security, national security. And so companies in North America are very concerned about what's going to happen to them because we already see the conflict being played out this way. So, for example, Huawei, the huge telecom equipment company in China, which, by the way, most Americans and North Americans don't realize, is also, for the moment, the #1 maker of smartphones in the world.
Right.
Yet it's virtually invisible to us. Well, it's almost illegal now for American companies to use Huawei technology. On the other hand, in China, it's virtually impossible to get access to Facebook or to Google, two giant American technology winners. And so, yes, every company has to be worried what's going to happen to them. Some people wonder whether they're going to leave China voluntarily, North American companies. You've got to figure, no, they will not want to leave China voluntarily if they can possibly avoid it. Mm-hmm. This is the world's largest market for many industries already. By far the largest market for automobiles and trucks. It's about to be the largest market for entertainment. Over and over, that's going to be the world's largest market. No company that wants to be globally competitive can afford to let go of China. But how the companies are going to manage that relationship depends a lot on how the countries manage it.
And obviously, this has got to be a big hot button issue for the election coming up. I'm sure that Trump wants to portray himself as really tough on China and Biden soft on China. It's going to be a political issue without question.
Yeah, it is going to be. In fact, it already is. One of the strange things about it is that this is actually an issue on which there is broad bipartisan agreement in Washington. Both parties agree that America needs to take a tougher line on China. And so we've already seen political ads, campaign ads from the Trump campaign and from the Biden campaign, each one trying to portray the other guy as soft on China, being played by China. And it's really quite something. So yes, it will be a big issue in the campaign, but it's going to be each guy trying to portray himself as the tougher guy on China and his opponent as weak on China. And what that means, by the way, is that after the election, no matter who wins, the tone will change depending on whether Biden wins or not. But the underlying realities and the underlying rivalry is not going to change.
Yeah, no. This is, good Chinese proverb to end this segment on. Was it the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times?
Yeah, these are far too interesting times for sure, and we live in them, and we're going to be living in them for quite a while.
Yeah,
and just not to close on a downbeat note, this relationship could be managed well.
Absolutely.
They could be contending with each other, the two countries, on certain issues, while simultaneously doing business with each other in certain industries. It could be managed well. Let's hope it is.
Absolutely. It's in their mutual best interest to do so.
Exactly.
There's too much at stake. Anyway, moving on. The other article, fascinating article that you had, was called Losing Connection, Companies Weigh the Risk of WFH, Work from Home. And you were talking about the idea that what's lost in the work from home, many executives are fearing, is going to play out over the longer term and result in a loss of innovation, because the spark that comes when people are together, looking in one another's eyes and sort of collaborating, is going to be missing. And over time, competitiveness winds up suffering. Is that sort of the headline, if you will, for what it is the article's about?
Yes, absolutely. That is a very good summary of what the article is about. I mean, right now we've got lots and lots of companies. We still have millions of people working from home. And that's fine. I mean, that's understandable. Under the circumstances, yes, it must be so. And it's probably going to be so for at least several more months. Those who can work from home will mostly continue working from home. The thing that has to be remembered is this is not an optimal solution. Some companies have said to their employees, notably Facebook and some others, have said, you know what, if you're working from home now, you can just keep working from home indefinitely. You don't have to come back to the office at all, ever. But certain companies, and they're very successful companies, are not offering that option. And I'm talking about Apple, Google, Goldman Sachs, Johnson and Johnson. These companies are very clear and explicit that they want their employees back in the office, physically together, as soon as it is safely possible to do that. And the reason is exactly what you mentioned. Innovation and creativity, which every company wants more of and needs more of now, depends on physical interaction. It comes from people bumping into each other and having off-the-cuff conversations, unplanned interactions. And time and again, that's where innovation comes from. And it's not just me saying so. There happens to be a lot of research on this, and it's fascinating research. And it says, yes, innovation comes from in-person interaction, and frequently, in fact, most of the time, unplanned. Just people talking in person. And all kinds of ideas come out of that. And if you lose that, over time, a company is going to lose a lot.
Yeah, and the future of work is a little up in the air, is a lot up in the air.
Yeah.
Right now, because I would imagine perhaps the effectiveness and the ability to work from home depends on the role that you're playing. Perhaps if you're just doing data entry, it might be a different urgency than if you're doing something else.
That is right. And so that's what a lot of companies are figuring, that people who are in those roles they might as well work from home. There is some evidence that they're more productive if they do that, but less creative and innovative. And people think, well, we're not really counting on them to be creative and innovative. And so that could be okay. Although even there is evidence that being physically together makes them, in fact, more productive than they were. There was research conducted in a call center, a giant call center, with thousands of people. But, customer service representatives, each one is in their own cubicle, answering phones through the headset and looking at a computer screen. You figure, well, they don't work together at all. What difference does it make? But nonetheless, an experiment was done where they were formed into teams, and the schedules were set so that those team members all got their breaks at the same time. So they would all go to where you could sit and have coffee and so forth together. Well, just from that, their productivity went up enormously. Even they were just going back to their individual cubicles, but they still saw a tremendous increase in productivity. So, we are really dealing with something deep and powerful if we keep people physically separated.
And this, of course, ties perfectly into your best-selling book, Humans Are Underrated, where you get into the whole idea of collaboration and empathy and all of the other qualities that are so uniquely human that, computers and smart technology may be able to do a lot of things, but they're not going to be able to replace the most human aspects of us. And that's where smart companies are leveraging that opportunity and that talent and that force.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was when I was working on that book that I first got deeply into the research on this subject. I was just bowled over by it. I was really just blown away by this. And so I've kept up with it. And in fact, recently I've checked in with many of the experts I originally got to know back then. And they say, yeah, absolutely. In fact, the pandemic is kind of a natural experiment, but all of the research they're doing confirms what they've thought all along and what the previous research has shown.
Fascinating. Well, thanks for these two great articles this week, Geoff. We look forward to more great topics for you to explore in the future issues of Fortune and on the website. Thanks as always for joining us.
Tony, it is my pleasure. Thank you.
Speak again soon. Bye-bye.